Welcome to the Intermission podcast. Today we're talking about anime, and because of that I've brought with me the anime man himself, Ben, because he watches a lot of anime, and we're going to talk about one specific show that's grown in, I don't want to say popularity, probably it's become more notorious than anything. It's probably the best way to put it.
Infamous is probably the best way to put it. Controversial, maybe?
Controversial, that's definitely, all of that is very applicable, because this show is something.
Oh,
Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out. Let's start with, I feel like this is probably going to be good, because a lot of when people talk mad shit about this show, the biggest reaction I see from people who want to defend it is usually, it's a slice of life show, maybe that's not your thing. Let's talk about our thoughts on slice of life shows and how much we enjoy them. So you can go first.
I'm fine with slice of life shows. I think that definitely, I know some people can definitely find that kind of stuff boring because there's no like overarching plot. It's very much just episodic and like, dude, this is just what happens in real life. Why would I want to watch this?
Yeah.
But like, I think slice of life is and episodic shows can be very enjoyable either way. I know a lot of them try to offset this with like funny writing, comedy, or even just building up like character relationships or anything like that, having really solid characters.
Yeah.
And I think they're enjoyable overall. But if they're bad, they can be really, really bad.
Yeah, I generally agree with that. I'm a pretty big fan of them. Slice of life. Usually, if there's rom-com in there, I'm pretty down for it. I feel like an issue a lot of rom-coms have, though, a lot of smaller ones, is that they struggle with finding a way to give some amount of real satisfaction and feeling of growth. Because even in a show that only talks about everyday life, I feel like there needs to be some feeling that something is changing, even if just a little bit. And a lot of slice of life shows do that by introducing new characters or changing up the dynamic a little bit by having the characters develop. Like slice of life shows, no matter how simple they are, end up changing quite a lot to make the show remain interesting. And I feel like a lot of shows struggle with that, but I really enjoy them for what they are. It's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. I read a lot of them that are probably not worth it, but I still stick with it because I'm just like, I'm a sucker for it. So
there's another aspect about slice of life shows I've come to find is that a lot of people think they're oversaturated in the market now.
Yeah.
And to an extent, I agree, because it's definitely like one of the most popular genres because of just how easy it is. How easy it is to get into. Like, there are definitely, I don't think there's been like, slice of life is usually that like safe genre, It's like it's one of those, you don't usually have to think a lot when, it's like watching trash shows.
You see them like all the time, every single anime season. There's just a bunch of them, and
yeah, exactly. They all feel the same is the thing. And that's where the seasonal anime comes from.
I shouldn't say all of them. I was about to say all of them feel the same. That's not true at all. But a lot of them do feel the same. Like, there are some that begin to meld together, and Uzaki-chan kind of falls into that category pretty nicely, because it's just so, I know a lot of people hate it and a lot of people want it to die. I really don't feel that strongly about it. It's just boring and it feels like a waste of time.
Oh yeah, it's like, the reason I think it's gotten so much controversy is mainly because people are freaking out over the ecchi element of this, and I don't understand that, especially when this is legitimately just your run-of-the-mill slice of life show. But the problem I have with the show is that it's a comedy that isn't very funny, so it just ends up being boring.
Yeah, let's talk about that actually, because the basic setup for Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out is that there's this guy who is kind of, I wouldn't say shut in. It's not the right word. He's more of
introverted.
He's an introvert. He's very introverted, and he kind of just wants to hang out by himself and have a good time doing whatever he wants to. And Uzaki-chan is this very overbearing Uzaki, whatever. I don't know why I always say Uzaki-chan. I guess it's because it's the show name.
It's just what it's called, I guess.
Yeah, she's very overbearing and forcefully makes him go out a lot, and that's kind of the whole dynamic that's going on there between those two. And it's kind of similar to Nagatoro in a sense. I think you've brought this up before.
Oh yeah.
Not here, yeah, not here, of course, but she's kind of like, she's always calling him a loser because he hangs out alone. And that's a very frequently reoccurring phrase. That was one of the biggest things that turned me off of this, and Nagatoro actually, because it's just the repetition of this over and over and over again. And I guess it's put into, with at least with Nagatoro, it's kind of put into different scenarios. I wouldn't say they're very effective scenarios, but with Uzaki, it's just always the same thing over and over and over again.
There's like 3 gimmicks they have. You know?
And those 3 gimmicks are always the very core of every single joke. So there are like 3 jokes they make, and
it all feels the same. Like every episode feels basically the same. Because like there's no variety in the jokes that they bring up, or like the variety of like situations that get bring up.
Yeah, and when they eventually do change something up later on in the show, I don't think it's super late in. I guess I probably should have stated this in the beginning. Ben has watched the show. I've read the first volume of the manga. Well, more accurately, I've reread the first volume of the manga recently. I've actually read some of it before, and I ended up dropping it. Because I felt physically pained whenever I saw the next chapter. Like, okay, here's the thing. I've said this before. I read manga online a lot now because it's just easier to keep up with. I have to pay less. I'm not, being like, all right, no dinner tonight. I'm going to go buy manga instead, But
you get notifications. It's very convenient.
Yeah, it's super convenient. So I usually...
This video's not sponsored by Manga Dex.
Anyway, so let's talk about Manga Dex instead now. That would be great. I could get the sponsor out of the way right now. It'd be awesome. No, I tend to not drop things. And the reason, or like if I do end up dropping something, I usually just unfollow it instead of throwing it into dropped, because maybe I'll stumble upon it later and be in a better mood for it. If I drop something, that is a real indicator that I was not having a good time. And Uzaki, like, I was reading it, and it got updated frequently, so I would see the new chapter, and I'd be like, oh my god. And then I would like skip through the chapter to kind of get it out of my my follows, and then at some point I was like, that enough is enough. It's getting dropped. What was I talking about before that? That was such a long tangent.
I mean, it was just mostly just like how you talked about how I watched the show and you read the manga and ended up dropping it.
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember now. Okay, the point of that was that at some point they introduce a new set of characters. It's like the older guy and whatever the girl is that's the son of the older guy, and
the son,
the daughter. You know what I meant.
Nice.
Leave me alone. So those two are like the only characters I found bearable. And it's because like the daughter at first is like really into muscles or whatever, and that's dropped like immediately and is never brought up again to my knowledge. Like it's just gone. And they kind of act as like this support group, I suppose, where they're like watching over them and being like, oh, that's, look at them, they're doing so great or whatever. And they were the only characters I found bearable because I kind of just like that dynamic in general when there's like a support group just kind of watching them and being like, yeah, let's go or whatever.
Yeah.
But they really have no bearing on the actual 2 main characters in general, in the sense that they don't actually alter that the character interactions necessarily. those character interactions between Uzaki and the main character, who I don't remember the name of, stay very much the same, even with that introduction of the two new characters.
Mhm.
So it just never feels like it develops in any capacity. It stays the same. The jokes stay the same. Everything
Yeah.
is just this constant state of
Very very generic, very
yeah, it's just
basic. So
generic,
it just ends
basic.
up being
It's
very boring.
boring.
And
Ugh.
I think one main point I have about the show is that, especially with a slice of life show, characters are like the forefront and like the
Mhm.
backbone of this show, of like any slice of life show, I would say. Because there's not
Yeah.
much plot going on, so you have to make up for it by having a really compelling character, like a
Mhm.
very compelling cast, or a very compelling like dynamic. I'm sure, like we brought up before, Nagatoro is very similar to this,
Mhm.
and I'm sure lots of people might enjoy it because they might really like Nagatoro. I personally didn't, so I didn't enjoy the series,
Yeah.
and I didn't like the dynamic either because it got borderline like abusive.
Yeah, with Nagatoro specifically, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah,
Yeah, that I don't know how I felt about Nagatoro. I wasn't
yeah.
like I wasn't offended by it or anything, but
Hmm.
it did seem kind of like odd at some scenarios where,
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Hmm.
It's hard to explain. It's not it
It just
not
made
going to
me.
get all worked up
Sometimes it
about
just
it.
made me uncomfortable, but it's not the main point here. The main point I'm trying to
No.
make is that Uzaki was incredibly annoying to me. I did not like his Uzaki.
I
The male
agree.
protagonist is actually like is fine. He's not anything amazing, but he's fine. He's likable and he does what he does, and it's fine. Like it's but Uzaki is just incredibly annoying to me. So I just could not enjoy
I
the
feel like
show.
that's kind of, at least for me, it's kind of a product of the fact that another part of her personality is just being loud.
Exactly.
And she's loud and she's always belittling the main character, and that just makes her really obnoxious, and her face doesn't help. I
Oh my
hate,
goodness.
I hate to say it. I know that's like really really petty, but her face is just so annoying in a lot of situations.
It's like a really punchable face, you know?
It is like the
It's
faces she makes.
you
It's
got
just like,
the
yeah, I could put that on a punching bag, and I would be like
you,
super fit. I would always be punching that thing.
if you just saw her like that like one poster of the anime where it's like her like smiling, I would be like, wow, this looks really generic. But then you go to her like one of her like most used faces, which is like her like lip tooth is easily shown, and she's got that shit eating grin.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's that's just it's
it's the worst.
very much the worst for me to
It's
deal
the
with.
worst.
But
All
yeah,
of that
if you enjoy the
creates
dynamic,
just,
I'm sure you would enjoy this show.
yeah, I guess that just depends on what you're looking for. But like
Hmm.
even if you do enjoy the dynamic,
Hmm.
it still feels very generic in pretty much every sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, we've already gone over all of how it's structured, and
Uh huh.
how it doesn't feel like there's any change whatsoever. It's
Hmm.
just status quo all day, every day.
Hmm.
But I also feel like the art style plays a bit of a role in this. And I'm not
Huh.
asking for something like, brand new animal, or like something revolutionary. I'm not asking for something really good.
Yo, why
But
does
I
this shit
feel
look like Ed, Ed and Eddie? The
Yeah.
fuck is this?
I'm not asking for Ed, Ed, and Eddie. As amazing as that would be, Big Mouth maybe. I feel like Big Mouth art style could really apply well to
Oh
this
my
show.
goodness.
I
The
feel like it
big
would
mouth
really take a
edit of
new height.
Uzaki. It's
Oh,
the
it was
worst thing I've ever
so
seen.
bad. There was a Total Drama Island one too, and I was like, "What are you doing to this
Dude, I
character?"
hate that so much.
So bad. But like, I just feel like the art style
Hmm.
very much screams generic slice of life
Yeah.
show.
It's
Like,
it's not it does nothing special, and it just
yeah,
feels it's like the rest of the show. It feels the same as anything else.
yeah. I'm
So
not saying it's a bad
yeah,
thing.
exactly. It just feels very average in everything it
Yeah.
does. And
Hmm.
that's like the peak of everything it does.
Yeah.
The worst parts are like less than average.
I haven't seen the actual animation, so I don't know how it gets, but
The
um
animation is fine, I'd say. Yeah,
oh,
there's
okay.
it's definitely like some of the most well animated parts are definitely like the etchy scenes.
Yeah, that would do it.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk about the etchy jokes?
Oh
Because
yeah, of course. You
the
can't. That's like the elephant in the room here.
yeah, for me personally, as a reader of the manga,
Hmm.
I was still very uncomfortable in a lot of these jokes because they felt very flat and they were very obviously sexual. Um, but just they somehow put it in a way that felt really odd. I don't know how to
Hmm.
explain it. It was kind of uncomfortable all around. The massage chair scene.
Oh yeah,
I believe
I
you've seen
was.
that. Yeah. How my question for you, since I haven't watched the anime, how how bad is it in motion?
Well, there's like a shot of her like boobs jiggling around, obviously, and then she's like making. The worst part is definitely her making the noises. I'd say.
That's kind
Like
of what
like
scared
that.
me.
Her making the noises, and then her making the face. Hearing it definitely makes the difference here. And if it was already
Mm,
uncomfortable in the manga, which I can imagine why it would be, like the presentation wise, audio is definitely like the main thing that would probably set you off even further in the animation.
really now. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I would assume so. I feel like voices are usually the key reason a lot of those become 10 times weirder.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um, I
Personally,
don't
I don't
know.
find that stuff. I don't enjoy etchy in my shows, and I don't find very basic forms of like, haha, look, it sounds like they are having the sex. Very funny. I don't find that very funny. You gotta it's like you can't just it's like making meta jokes, you know? You can't
Yeah.
just point out the meta and you can't just point out the haha, look, it's etchy. You can't just point that out. You gotta go somewhere with it or you gotta like
Mhm.
spin it in a way that makes it funny. And it
Yeah,
does neither of those things. It just gives it to you in the most generic way possible. And it ends up feeling forced too.
I agree with that. I think where we kind of differ on this opinion is that I actually don't particularly mind ecchi in my shows a lot of the time.
Hmm.
Um, as long as it's very brief and I can just like quickly like because I read a lot of manga. I read a lot more manga than I watch anime. So like if there's ecchi, I can just be like, okay, that's the joke. Goodbye. I can skip it really quickly. Or
I
like if it's presented in a way that's not super annoying,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, etchy,
Um,
like I can deal with my tolerance with it is like it's decent. I don't actively look for it, but
mhm.
like if I watch a show and I see like it gets to the point where I notice it and I start to feel like it's too much, there's like a very clear point between that and just like here's a snippet of an ass here and there.
Yeah, I feel like that's a difference of like fan service
Yeah,
and
exactly.
trying to make a really big deal about it. Some
Hmm.
shows teeter that line. Uzaki's definitely like trying to make a joke out of it. It just doesn't work. Like
Oh, it doesn't work because they just
doesn't
end
work
up
at
doing the
all.
same thing.
Mhm.
Like it's one of those things where it's like I said, like you got to go somewhere with the joke. You can't just
Yeah.
look. This is very weird situation.
Oh, ho,
Please
ho.
laugh. You
Look,
know, it's
look
like
at her shake around.
because
Isn't that so
there's no
funny?
commentary. There's nothing being said there. The show is like trying to, in a way, I think like they're trying to make it into a joke, but at the
Mhm.
same time, they're very much also trying to pander to like the fan service side.
Yeah, it fulfills two roles.
Hmm.
And you know, I don't want to act like I'm the goddamn joke police, okay? I'm not like you can't find this funny. I'm sure there are people that like are in their seats
Oh yeah,
cackling,
definitely.
head back in the air, like saliva flying everywhere, just laughing so hard that they're like on the verge of tears, and that's
Hmm.
fine. But it's just it's not what I like.
Yeah.
I don't find it funny.
Mhm.
Um,
I
and
will
it just
say I did find it's very similar to okay, this might sound really bad, so you might wanna consider something in post, but maybe you can keep this in too. It was
okay.
really similar to Kiss Sis for me,
What's
where
that? What? Okay, okay,
it
hold
was
on. We're
very it was
talking about
very okay, no, I'm
Uzaki,
talking
and
about
you're
the
afraid
humor.
about bringing up Kiss X Sis? Really,
No, no,
dude?
no,
That
the
show is
humor in this show, in my
terrible.
opinion, is like when they're trying to be funny in like the sexual parts, it's not. But it
Mm-hmm.
gets so it just goes so fucking far. I end up like covering my eyes and I'm like,
To
"Oh
be
my
to
fucking
be
god."
perfectly fair, okay. Because by the way, I am keeping this in because I
Oh yeah,
feel
of
like
course.
this needs to be said. Kiss X Sis is awful.
Oh
It is
yeah.
one of the worst shows I've ever watched.
I
And
wouldn't
to
say
defend
that.
myself very quickly, and to defend Ben and everybody else who's watched this show in my friend group, I watched this in like middle school back when I used YouTube to watch all my anime. I read some of One Piece and then I was like, this is really cool. I want to see more of this. So the only place I knew was YouTube. So I went there, and because YouTube was starting to crack down on that and taking stuff down, I took what I could get, and Kiss X Sis is what I could get. It was awful. And I remember very little of it for good reason. I pushed it out of my mind, and when I brought it up in an idle conversation talking about some of the worst shows we've ever watched, Ben was like, "Dude, I want to watch some trash." So he went and watched. How much of it do you watch? Like some
4
of it?
episodes.
4 episodes? Okay, that's
I couldn't
probably
even
all you
get
need
through the
to
whole
see.
season.
Yeah. It's to give you an idea, we're complaining about Uzaki and how it takes its sexual jokes very a lot farther than we would like, or at least that's how I take it.
Mhm.
It's like kind of weird and uncomfortable at a point.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiply that by 100, and then you've got Kiss X Sis. And
Yeah.
remember how we said it's very clearly trying to pander to another audience? Yeah, Kiss X Sis is just pandering to another audience. As you can probably tell by the title, which very clearly gives off a specific type of interest. Let's put it like that. It's
I don't
awful.
know what you're saying. I'm sure everyone
Oh,
likes kissing. I
oh.
don't know what you mean.
Everybody likes kissing. What are
Yeah,
you
well, like,
talking
I mean,
about?
if you incest, to be honest, like, it's a, it's yeah, if you couldn't tell, it's he has two sisters and he ends up kissing both of them multiple times.
I feel like we should also preface this by saying if you like incest, I know some therapists.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but like
Anyway.
that's another point about this show. It's just about Uzaki. It's just not special, you know? It doesn't do anything special in my opinion.
That
And I
that really is pretty much it. Like it's just so
it's like the most mid show.
yeah, it's just
It's very
there.
average, but then it's not even like the average kind of it's not even like the good average show.
Mhm.
It's like
It's
a
like a
it's like a
sterilized slice of life show.
I would
Nothing like
if this were
special.
me like saying my taste,
Okay.
I would give it like a 4 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. And maybe a 6 out of 10 maximum. That's like all I could see.
It's fair. Fair. But 6 is probably as far as it can go.
Yeah.
My anime list, to give you an idea of the quality, has it as a 7. And for anybody who knows what that means, it means it's very mid.
That means it's ranked
Um,
like 4,000 or something.
yeah, like 7 within the realm of like anybody can make reviews. Like in the context of that,
Mhm.
that means it's very mid because people
Yeah.
like that means people are rating it poorly, but then there's like the 10 out of 10s that bring it up. So
Yeah.
I don't think we're really alone on this idea,
Mhm.
and it's just very standard, box standard, normal, nothing
Seasonal
super
show,
special. Yeah, which makes it very surprising that it got as much hate on social media as it did.
Of course, yeah.
It
It's like this like the problematic aspects of the show. If you want to hate on this show, the people who hate on this show, like actively hate on it, there are
Mhm.
worse shows that do all the points that you mentioned even worse. and you can definitely shit on those easier. The people who
Mhm.
like this show, they're the good aspects of the shows, the parts that you like. There are shows that do that aspect better. So I don't know what it is about this show that makes it just like such an enigma, you know?
Yeah, like out of all the seasonal shows, they had things like back when I actually did watch anime and kept up with seasonal anime. They had
Oh,
Eromanga Sensei, which is like, in my opinion, that's like really, that's more taboo than any of Uzaki.
oh
Why
yeah.
did that not get like trashed on Twitter? Maybe it did. Maybe I don't remember. But like, why is that? Why
Mhm.
was that not talked about widely on Twitter? And I know a lot of people enjoyed it. So like, it's weird that Uzaki has taken the place in social media that she has, because
Yeah.
it just it baffles me. There's nothing special about her. Why is she everywhere? Like,
I can like just the to be honest, it's just I think I actually did notice this a while back from looking at my anime list because I sometimes check it.
mm,
Um, I did notice about this season comparatively to like previous seasons, there are not that many shows. There are not
oh
that many
really?
new shows this season.
Hmm.
A lot of them are like sequels, like ReZero season 2,
Oh yeah,
um
that is a thing, isn't it?
Fire Force season 2, Sword Art Online something second season. I think it's
Okay.
like Alicization or something.
That it's probably it. I don't
Yeah,
follow
I
Sword
don't
Art
follow it
Online
either.
anymore. I watched like
So
maybe.
that leaves like 12 new shows this season.
Okay, well
So
that
that probably gives a better like
yeah, that
idea
probably
about
gives it better
why.
odds.
Mhm.
But like even then, I can see how it got popular, I suppose.
Mhm.
But like, I don't know why people still talk about it. Like, it's definitely died down. Don't get me wrong. But every
Mhm.
once in a while, I'll still see Uzaki,
Dude, yeah.
and I'm just like, why
And
are you
this is
back?
just Twitter in general just blows up over the most random of things. It just sometimes it feels like it, sometimes it doesn't. Which is why I think when Nagatoro gets its anime adaptation, it is getting an anime adaptation if you haven't heard.
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah, but it is getting an anime adaptation.
That is gonna be torn to hell and
There's a
back.
50-50. I think there's like a 50-50 chance of Twitter losing its shit when
Oh
it
no, they
drops.
will. They will. They absolutely will.
Mhm.
Um, though Twitter, they do that over everything. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Saying that Twitter is mad is like saying that the sky is blue. There's nothing special there.
Yeah.
Like, they get mad over a lot of things, and
Mhm.
I say that as a Twitter user who gets mad over a lot of things. So
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm. It's. I don't know. It's hard to explain. The biggest drama surrounding it was also a little weird. Maybe I just don't see it, but
Oh, I know
a
where
lot
this is
of
going. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people were talking about how people who like the show are pedophiles, which, I can make fun of your taste, but I feel like calling you a pedophile maybe just a little bit too far,
I think personally I think it's too far. I can definitely see like you seeing like the size difference between the two and like the way like her face is drawn to be very cute.
Mhm.
I can definitely see why you would be uncomfortable watching this show. But at the same time, that doesn't mean everyone who does watch this show is automatically like a
Yeah.
pedophile or a
And
lolicon.
also that it's kind of just a product of the style specifically. A lot of slice of life
Exactly.
shows go for that type of thing. You can see it
It's a
in the
very
rest of the
it's a very
characters.
generic slice of life style.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know why this show is just special.
I don't know. It might just be that she's short.
Yeah, that's
I
probably
also
it.
grew up around a bunch of midgets though, so like that means nothing to me. That's kind of mean, but like my family is really short. Uh I'm like what, 5'9" ish, and that's lucky. So,
You're
I
5'9"?
5'9", 5'10", something like that. Or am I
Yeah,
5'10"?
you're probably taller than that because I'm like
I don't
almost 5'8".
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember my height that well. I don't know. I haven't
Yeah.
measured my height in a
I mean,
long
being
time.
that short kid, being the shortest kid in middle school, that was like there's short people that exist, you know. and especially I think like someone did like a proportion thing,
Yeah, yeah, where it's like
and she's like an average proportion for a
yeah,
Japanese
she's like
woman.
what 6 heads tall,
Yeah.
something like that, which is normal average proportion. I feel like a lot of people who are saying that, first of all, haven't watched the show,
Uh huh.
or like read the manga at all, because I feel like the screen caps that are being shared
Just
give a
give a bad
very
image, you know.
yeah, they give a very bad image of her proportions as well
Hmm.
as just like her just generally the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Some of the things you're seeing paint a perfect image, but there are
Yeah.
also screen caps going around that kind of make it like a little bit deceptive.
Hmm.
Um,
I think it's like one of those things where I personally have this thing where I enjoy seeking things out. I enjoy trying, like, expanding my tastes, expanding my views, and like
mhm.
seeing all the stuff that's popping up, you know, and expanding my horizons with that. And I think there's a value to be had in watching trash shows, such as this one.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I completely understand when people like hear about a show and they're like, "Wow, that sounds awful. I'm not gonna watch it." I don't blame you.
Hmm.
If I read you the synopsis for Eromanga Sensei, I would not expect you to go out and watch it. Like it's like I think it's fair for people to be like, "Wow, this show's really trashy. I'm just not gonna watch it," and that's totally cool. But
Hmm.
at the same time, I think a lot of the criticism doesn't really hold up when you haven't seen the show.
Yeah. I also, again, as you were saying, there. I feel like there is some value in watching trashy shows. It's to be fair, it's a waste of time. Yes.
Mhm.
Um, but I know for you at least, you write like small things on the side about how you feel about
Mhm.
it. Private stuff, obviously. But
It might not be private.
who
If this
knows?
video gets 5
If
likes,
we get 5 likes, I'll leak all of Ben's anime opinions on
I'll
social
post all
media.
of them on YouTube.
I'll voice all of his reviews on YouTube and upload them. But
Anyways,
when when you write those things, and not having the perspective of what is truly bad and what is truly good.
what's mediocre?
Yeah,
It's like the best.
sorry,
It's
what's mediocre? I feel like I'm gonna go back to games for a second, because I feel like this is very prevalent within a lot of reviews and a lot of conversation around reviews in general. If something is mediocre, people either lean towards it being good or lean towards it being bad. There is no in between for a
mhm,
lot of people. For a lot of people, it's a very black and white situation. It's either good or it's
mhm.
bad,
Yeah.
nothing else. And even if a show is like kind of good, or sorry, a game or a show is like kind of good or like kind of bad, people will
Yeah.
take it to the extreme in a lot of
Mhm.
scenarios. I feel
It's
like,
it's a lot of black and white for a lot of
yeah,
people.
I feel like that really does come from a place of, this is going to sound very rude, lack of understanding of what else is actually out there.
It's like ignorance and like inexperience, I'd say.
Yeah, because like if you've played, let's say if you've played Sonic Forces and you're like,
Mhm.
this is literally the worst game ever created, you probably haven't played Bubsy 3D, you know? If you're like, Uzaki-chan is the worst show I've ever watched,
You
or
probably
like the
only
worst
seen
show
good
ever.
shows.
Yeah, you're probably watching good shows, and good for
Mhm.
you.
Good for you, yeah.
But you probably haven't seen Kiss X Sis, you know, like it's really perspective based, and I fully
Mhm.
understand, like you said, that people don't want to put themselves through physical pain, right, to
Mhm.
get through a show, but truly, when you're criticizing something, it's very beneficial to have that
I think
perspective.
that perspective is important
Yeah.
and useful, and it's
Hmm.
if you're into that kind of stuff, I'd say honestly give it a shot. You never know what you might like, you know? Like
Yeah.
if you hear everyone on Twitter bashing it and you just assume, yeah, I'm not gonna like this either, you're probably gonna end up like liking nothing. Twitter will hate on literally everything.
I guess the better way, like if a lot of people go into shows with preconceived opinions, Just go in, whatever, no thoughts, brain empty.
Yeah.
See how you come out, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You might enjoy it. If you've listened to this podcast and you haven't seen it yet and you're like going to go and watch it, literally forget everything I've said. Like Men in Black, brain wipe yourself. Go and watch it. And
because if we don't particularly like the show, but you might.
Yeah, like go and watch it. Come back, tell us how shitty our opinions are in the comments. Whatever, you know, like just go enjoy it if you like it. It's totally fine. But it just, I've seen a lot, and this doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything.
It's nothing special.
Yeah,
it's not even. I wouldn't even say it's a bad show. It's just not good.
Yeah,
it's like painfully mediocre. It's like my thing with it. And when it's a slice of life show, if you're not doing anything well or like somewhat like competent, it just ends up being boring.
Yeah,
and boring just ends up like eventually leads to bad.
Yeah, other shows, or other genres more specifically, have, you know, these other things going for it. Like with rom-com, it's super easy to feel like there's some amount of progression, right? Like obviously everybody talks about how at some point if the rom-com's successful enough, they're like the relationship stagnates and they're never going to get anywhere. But before that point, at the very least, these small progressions in their relationship is really all you need to satisfy that you know, that feeling of growth. With a slice of life show, it's a little bit harder to do that. And Uzaki-chan, while having romance, it never really feels like they're progressing super far. There's like one time where she helps
she blushes.
Yeah. That one time when she goes, ooh, and then blushes. No, there's like one time where she helps him when he's sick. That was in volume 1. There's stuff like that, but it's very few and far between. And I feel like the romance aspect is very much, it's taking side stage to the slice of life aspect. And the slice of life aspect is just not providing anything because it's so much harder for a slice of life show or manga to provide that sense of growth and fulfillment that something is changing. And Uzaki just kind of falls flat on that.
Yeah.
The romance kind of backs it up a bit, but not by much.
The character dynamic just is not very appealing to me personally, and it doesn't like go anywhere either. It's very like unspecial. Like we said before, there's like 3 different gimmicks that they pull. There's haha, you're a loser, senpai. That's the first one. The second one is, oh, my boobies, look at this ecchi.
That's a really good way to put it, yeah.
And then the third one is banter. I think out of those 3, only one of them is entertaining, and that's the banter. And that shows up the least. It's
so frustrating too, because like when she's just being like, oh, you're such a loser, and he's like, shut up. That's like the most basic, boring banter ever. Yeah. But when they're like going at each other's throats, I know this sounds awful, but
that's interesting. No, that's like legitimately entertaining.
It's entertaining. And maybe that's just the way. Like maybe that's just me and the friend group I'm a part of. You know, like banter is.
It's friendly banter. You know, it's friendly. So I think that's like somewhat endearing to an extent, and it could be good.
But they just don't do it.
They just don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Really. The show is just there. The show is... I'm sorry for making you watch it for this podcast, Ben.
No, I wanted to watch it anyways, to be honest.
Well, now you have.
Dude, it came at like the perfect time for me too. I was like, I need to watch more trash.
And then you just looked over
and then I flipped my Twitter timeline. I'm like, ooh, what is this?
What should I watch? And then Uzaki's right there.
I know like the best way for me to get my anime recommendations on like what like and like knowing like keeping up to date with like what basic taste is. I just search up new to Anatwit on the Twitter search, and literally everyone likes Haikyuu, Free, and Yuri on Ice. So I'm like, okay, these people are like, I know the demographics too. I'm like, okay, so this is like a 13-year-old girl.
I mean, I'm not saying.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. But
yeah, and if they just watch shonen, then it's like okay, this is probably a teenage boy, you know? It's very much falls into those demographics. And I'm not saying boys can't like BL because I'm sure lots of people like BL, and that's perfectly okay. But it is genuine. Like when I see those three together,
It's
and then I
it's
also see like
really
Black
easy
Butler
to
or something,
generalize when
and
you
I'm
see those all three together,
yeah,
and
right. I
you
see and then I
tend to
see
be
other
right.
stuff like Black Butler and Oron High School Host Club. I'm like, okay, there's no way this is not a teenage girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So I
suppose.
that's how I get like my basic taste understanding. And Twitter's very good at that. And if I want a good recommendation, then I'll just see whatever's hot on the Twitter timeline. And guess what? Uzaki was there. And it was way bigger than it should have been, if I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
So
again.
I was like, I need to see what the fuss is about. It's like SAO. I'm like, everyone's talking shit about it. I need to see what the fuss is about.
SAO, God.
That's a whole episode on its own.
That is a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
Um, I think I might call it there because Uzaki's kind of that horse is
Mhm.
dead, and we beat it pretty well. So,
Mhm.
um,
If you wanna end it off, can I do have one extra thing?
go for it, go for it.
Do you if you were to like sit down with someone and talk about the show, would you or would you not recommend it to someone?
I would probably not recommend it because,
Mhm.
obviously I've said all this bad stuff about it, but I've also said trash shows can be beneficial to watch
Yeah.
for, forming a critical analysis on something.
Mhm.
Um, however, this is not bad. It's
Mhm.
not good. It's completely in the middle.
Mhm.
So, what benefit does it pose to watch it?
Well, you get your mid shows too. Got to get the full range, no?
You know what? Maybe.
No, but like I think if you wanted to I legitimately think it's beneficial to watch trash shows. But even then, I think that this is not the one to go for because there's even better shows at being trash than it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, just to be honest, just if you want to just see what a seasonal anime is about, I guess you can go for it, but like you once you've seen one or two, you pretty much get the gist of like the quote unquote generic seasonal anime, and you'll
Yeah.
pretty much get an idea of this.
Yeah.
Or, like once you've seen enough anime, you get to that point where it's like, yeah, I kind of know where what like this one has.
Yeah,
When you
it
see like the
seems to
genres at
start
the top,
it
you see
starts
the
to go in a bit
synopsis.
of a circle and you're like,
Yeah, and
"Oh,
you're like,
okay."
yeah, this is one of those shows.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. So consensus is that don't watch this show.